Hey guys, welcome back to another Six Sages gaming video. Today I'm joined by Richard Zapp, and we're going to be covering the lightning cards from Opus III. Zapp, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. I don't think anyone's shocked that I'm here helping you out today.
And the puns are going to be starting off already. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the cards. And I gotta have a little a disclaimer here. So this is one of the first times I finally had to look at some of the cards when I was besides putting this together. And overall, I'm not too impressed. So I want to get that disclaimer out of the way. Not that Lightning really needed to gain a lot out of this set to continue to be playable, but if we are a little bit harder on these cards, that's strictly because it just hasn't gotten as much love as the other elements. So wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way. Up first with that note, we have Orisha, which is the tutor for cadets. And I don't think we need to spend a lot of this time on this card because we'd already talked about it. And if you're playing cadets, you're playing this card as a 1-2 of. If you're not playing cadets, you're probably not playing it. It's pretty simple. Zap, any thoughts on that really quick?
You know, the one new Arisia target, the ice 5-drop Kurasami that we talked about with the ice video. I love how this can fetch that. I love that little core you have in Lightning Ice. But other than that, yeah, I think everything we knew it did before, it still does now, only better.
Yep. So then going into some new cards, we have Angel, I believe is how you pronounce that, a 3-drop 7k, so on par for power, and then when it's put into the breakstone, you get to search your deck for Zack and add it to your hand. Obviously, this is then going to go into a Fire Lightning deck, which has shown up quite a few times previously, but someone did win a local event out of Japan with it, and it certainly helps that there's this really nice engine built into it. But if that deck stays around until, the first month of a new meta is always just kind of people trying out new things, what have you. And I'm not sure if this is going to stick around till the end, but I think it's really cool for what it does. So I think it's a very interesting card, and it's very flavorful that you can go from Angel, Zack to Cloud, Light Cloud, or 4-drop or less. So I like what that has going for it, and obviously getting that card advantage is going to be a positive thing, but outside of that, obviously you're only really playing this in Fire Lightning, so I'm not sure how far those two element combinations are going to go in Opus 3.
That's my opinion as well. Lightning Fire is a little questionable for me. I think a lot of what those two colors do are very similar. There's not a lot that differentiates them. The other thing that that I don't like about this card is you want to draw Angel first, and then Zack, and then Cloud. So logically, that you're running more of the 3-drop, and then 3 Angel, 2 Zack, 1 Cloud would be ideally in the progression. But of course, you're playing a bunch of Clouds because Cloud has Omni Slash, and the 4-drop, or you're probably playing the 3-drop as well. It's weird numbers. You want to run less Zack than Angel, and I don't know how you get those numbers to work out in the deck. The thing about the end of that chain is once you get the Light Cloud, you can play Ultima, which is an absurd card. Yeah. But if you're not running Earth to tutor Ultima, that means you're running 2 or 3 Ultima.
Yeah, that does not feel great.
Yeah, 2 or 3 Ultima, 2 or 3 Cloud. It's just no bueno for me. It might be okay at some point, but I'm not paying much attention to it right now.
To your point about the line, it'd probably be something like 3-2-3 then, I'd imagine, because you have to play 3 Cloud regardless. And Zack, you only want to see once you can reliably play it. Have 3 backups and play that way. You're only kind of discarding 1. But you are right, that is very interesting. So the deck that did well in Japan ran 3-3-3, but again, it was the first week of Opus 3 over there, so it's probably just a kind of watch to see where this card goes. And we'll again, Fire Lightning is pretty fun to play, so we'll see if the Crash and Burn decides to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another Angel card. So I will say, between the two of them, I like the other one a lot better. 4-drop 7k, so it's a little bit underpowered. It has haste though. But when it deals damage to your opponent, choose 1 damage forward and break it. So yes, if you're in Lightning, chances are you might have something like the 2-drop Ninja, so you can ping something and get the effect to happen, or at least always threaten it. There's a number of ways to get that effect to work if you really want it to. But I think trying to connect with the 7k is going to be a bit more difficult than you may like. So obviously it has haste. That is the biggest thing it has going for it. Obviously your opponent can, maybe not see it coming, so I will give it that. But ultimately, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this card.
Yeah, I think you caught everything. I wish there were cards that said... I'm almost imagining if Lightning had, like, 4-cost Tifa, where you could tap a thing, do 6,000 to it, Tifa goes direct, and then Penix goes direct and kills them. But there's no effect similar to Water Kick that is cheap enough to create this kind of situation where that card's going to go well. I can imagine a world where this card is really good, especially with a backup that says when you deal damage, pick a guy and do 2,000 to it. In a world where that exists, this card could get really good. But for right now, it's going to be in the binder.
Right. Effectively having to play 3 for Ninja just to ping something on demand is certainly going to be probably a little bit more than you would want to put into a card. So again, we'll see if haste is enough to save this card in a long run. And I guess it's also worth noting that if you are in Mono Lightning, you're playing the Lightning backup or the Lulu plus 1,000 Lightning backup. So it's a 4/8 with haste. That's not terrible, but I think that might be too much of a stretch. Going on, we have X-Death, which, so I have to give a huge shout out to Russell really quick on this one because, I mean, it was a week or two ago now, he was talking about how good X-Death was, and then just everyone tore him apart in the Final Fantasy Facebook group. And then, lo and behold, this last week was two different events were won by in X-Death. Yes, it was Mono Lightning, so obviously Mono Lightning was already good. I get that. But I really don't think that anyone could possibly argue how strong Grand Cross can be, especially getting in that last point of damage, or just resetting your opponent's board and you have the hand that you need. So it can always, just being able to threaten it is perhaps enough. So is X-Death going to stick around? Is Mono Lightning going to continue to be a thing? I think that is going to be an interesting thing to watch. But at the end of the day, this card is certainly not nearly as bad as everyone thought it was. And I actually realized when I was, yesterday, Jamie had pointed out to me that it removes all characters, so not just forwards. So having a 9K on the board and when your opponent having nothing can certainly be a very devastating place for them to be in.
Yeah, the essentially having to discard 5 cards for it is really expensive. On top of that, playing the 5-drop first means you're not doing. The dream would be you just played turn 1, you dump their hand and you just win, but you're not generating enough cards to do that for a few turns. I think the first effect when he attacks, characters lose their jobs. I don't think that's going to mean much for a while. Cadets kind of get wrecked by it. But,
I mean, cadets mostly care on attacking, I think. Standard units is the big one that comes to mind. Since that did win one of the last events, top 4, one of the last events in Japan. It was actually the second largest Opus II event, if I remember correctly. And I think standard units will absolutely be a thing, at least for a little while or soon after Opus 3 launches, but again, you just don't block a 9K. I mean, you just don't care at that point. Yeah,
it's one of those things where if you can generate enough cards to resolve Grand Cross, you're probably winning. Yeah, I'm so skeptical the card's great, but Japan's trying to prove me wrong, so see what happens.
I mean, they have always put out some pretty wacky brews, so I appreciate them for trying to make that happen. And then up next we have Enuo, and this has been an interesting card. So it has the heroic unit effect, so when a character is put in the field you can remove it, and then also has the pay 1 and choose a card in the break zone, remove it, so that helps you get around things like Sage, or if someone has rare Facility, yeah, it's just a rare, right? The Lightning Facility can help you get around that too. If they have just a few cards, you can just remove them.
Oh, right.
There's a few things that it can do, and one of my friends in Italy was actually talking about. He was the creator for the Solution 9 deck. We covered that a little while ago, and he had this like really nice Wind Lightning deck. So an element that combination hasn't been around much, and in his testing so far, this has kind of been his like his savior and trying and making that element happen, because this and the Chaos Walker of the Wheel, I think is the full name, is just a house for your opponent to deal with. And that's just, both those cards are something that Wind Lightning really needed, and it got that out of Opus 3. Is that going to stick around? We'll see, but I think it's very nice to have pushing these element combinations together and having viable answers in those two elements so they can marry together and create, hopefully, a new deck we haven't seen before.
You know, I think in general, fetching stuff from the graveyard or from the discard pile of the break zone isn't really too popular right now. Let's see how many other names I can come up for a discard pile. But I think it falls under that category. It reminds me of the Opus 2 Legendary Squall conversation we had, where if you're playing a 5 cost or a 6 cost, it needs to do something as soon as it hits the board to generate advantage. And this card isn't doing that, so it's getting a pretty hard pass for me. I know you've used this term a couple times. If there's a sideboard in this game, it would be
exactly. Yep, but, that was going to be my last note on it. I wish there was a sideboard for it. That'd be a perfect place for him.
Maybe someday, if you get more cards like Chaos Bowl that supports removing stuff from the game. But until then,
Fair enough.
So next up, we have Odin. This is the Type 0 variant. Choose a forward. If it has 7,000 power or less, break it. If you control a cadet forward, you break it, period. Doesn't matter how much power they have. Of course, it having the name Odin is pretty cool because you can search it with 6 lightning. I think people might overrate that a little bit, though, because 6 lightning isn't a cadet, so it's kind of a tangential sort of support. When I first saw the card, I thought it was really, really good. Being able to break something for 4, like guaranteed, is really cool. But then I thought about it, and excuse me. So you go to Odin, their guy, and if, against the water deck, if they Leviathan and they bounce your only cadet forward, if they play their own Odin, if they ping it with winds effects, they can kill your 0 cadet before Odin resolves. And if you targeted a 9,000 to kill it with this Odin, you just lost yourself 4 CP and the Odin didn't do anything. So the more I thought about it, the more skeptical I became of the card. Do you think it's playable?
I will say that I think the ideal summon line up for the Cadets deck could be Terrible Long, and assuming Wind Lightning is going to be 3 of the Opus 1 Cadet, 3 of this Odin, and 2 of the Diablos. The only reason why Diablos gets a little bit of a drawback there is because it doesn't have... it's nice that you can play it for free, but the Cadets deck really does have to focus on flooding their field or flooding their backup so that they can play it. In theory, you should always have at least 2, if not 3 different cadets on the board, thanks to Ace or thanks to some other effects when you want to be playing this. So it should be difficult for your opponent to play around this card. At any time that it says a 4-drop, break something unconditionally, I think it gets a huge uptick. Now, again, the biggest drawback is that you have to be playing a dedicated Type 0 Cadets deck, or this card is really unplayable at the end of the day. 4-drop 7k is not doing anything. So I think it is guaranteed a 2 to 3 of in the Cadets deck, but outside of that, it's just not doing anything. But I guess the bigger question is here, is Cadets good? Is Cadets actually going to see play? And we just don't know right now. I don't think it's done anything yet, based on some other the metas around the world, but I would love to be proved wrong on Cadets. Absolutely would love to be proved wrong. So someone please do it out there so I can use my Type 0 sleeves. Those sleeves are really nice, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't seen them yet. But so up next, we have Gilgamesh.
Yep.
Of course, a popular name. Gilgamesh being very popular from the Opus 1 version. The Strongest Sword deck, the 4854 deck. 4 different effects depending on what other elements you're playing. 4-8 is pretty status quo. None of these effects are amazing. Making Gilgamesh 9,000 by pumping him with the Earth is pretty cool. That reminds me of what the Divider Gilgamesh does. He does something very similar, except it's 2 lightning instead of 1 Earth. In the lightning deck, he's guaranteed to be able to give himself haste, which is kind of cool. All that being said, the only time I think this Gilgamesh is better than Divider is if you're playing Lightning Earth. In the sense that Shantoto gives you versatility that you can use any of these effects whenever you want. That's the one interesting thing I'm seeing. Other than that, the only time I'm playing this card is when 9 Gilgamesh aren't enough.
Yep, and that was going to be my thoughts on it too. Again, you stole it there with the Shantoto comment, so I'll just won't need to reiterate that. But my key takeaway for this card, or at least like where I would play it first, and again, I'm not terribly sold on it, but it's another Gilgamesh for strongest sword, so maybe we need to revisit, you know, Gilgamesh the deck, and now we have 12, right? I think is how many there is. So you're virtually drawing a Gilgamesh every turn from that point on. So I mean the numbers don't work out exactly like that, but should be every other turn. Yeah, every other turn. But there's gonna be some turns where it's just like you have this, and then you have 2 more Gilgamesh in your hand. You know, that's enough to break 2 forwards that your opponent's gonna play. By that time, you've drawn into more Gilgamesh. So it's it might be silly, it might be a joke deck, maybe it's terrible, who knows, but I think we do have to be a little bit cognizant of anytime there's a new Gilgamesh that comes out, the strongest sword just gets even better. So one day it might just be the strongest of strongest swords, and it's Gilgamesh the deck, we'll see.
You know what, the one other idea I have is, so if you're playing this in a 50-card Mono Lightning almost all forward deck and you're playing Golbez, you could randomly run one Chaos or Cosmos, and that would let you pick between these 4 effects.
Sure.
And that also has the additional synergy of letting you play your Tifa or your Seraphi or your Larsa, whatever your Gilgamesh or your Golbez targets are. It would help make those playable from the hand too. I don't know if that's good, but it's one other realistic synergy.
Yep, definitely worth noting. From there we have Queen, which is the vastly superior Queen to the other one. If you control a job class cadet other than Queen, Queen gains first strike, so 3/7 first strike obviously is very good in the cadets deck. This is basically a 3-drop 9k first strike. And then Speed Rush gains haste, and Queen cannot be blocked until end of turn, so guaranteed damage just for discarding another copy. I think if you are in the cadets deck, this is probably the best common for you out of Opus 3. You know, obviously outside of a cadets deck, it's probably unplayable, but the Speed Rush effect is just absurdly strong. So if you're playing cadets, you're playing this card, period. That's all I have to say about it.
I'm gonna disagree in that I think it's playable regardless, because this Queen actually doesn't demand the forward be Zero Cadet. A backup Zero Cadet will give him first strike as well. So even playing the Lightning Tutor, Arcia getting
That's
Queen
fair.
is enough to guarantee first strike. Again, in that Ice Lightning deck, Emina was the backup that supported Kurosami. So Emina gives Queen. Or no, that wouldn't work.
No, this is not a cadet.
Yeah,
So
kidding.
I guess here, that's actually a very valid point. Do you play this in a deck, and then again as a 3 of, maybe you play one of the tutor just to have it, just for the Speed Rush effect? Do you think that is good enough?
Maybe. So
It's interesting.
I'm picturing like Mono Lightning having Lulu, or Lightning Wind having Zero Moogle, making Queen 3/8 with first strike. That gets really playable really fast.
Yep. Okay, that one I will give to you. Yeah, it's interesting. So I guess that is a good counterpoint. I wonder if this will see play in the Ice Lightning deck then, because that's where my first mind would go. You know, we want to have this Ice Lightning tempo deck. And anytime that something says basically unblockable, yes, you have to discard another Queen, whatever, that might just be good enough. That's interesting. I guess I'm going to try that in the Ice Lightning deck and see where it goes.
Yeah, you'd have to go back and look through all the different Zero Cadet backups to see what you could just casually splash into anything, and then make an informed decision based on that.
Right. So then we have Black Waltz 3, which is an EX burst, so I will give it that. Enters the field, choose 1 forward opponent controls until end of turn, and loses 1,000 power for each card in your hand. So realistically, this is going to be At best, minus 5,000 damage. Unless you're in water, then I guess you could do some really cheeky things with hitting a Marrowlib into this. And then it could be 7 or 6. Oh, it'll only be 6. What have you. Long story short, I just don't think that this is going to be good enough. So I don't have a lot to say about it. It's an EX burst is the one thing that makes it nice, but a 4/7 isn't all that great to talk about when there's so many good 4-drop lightning cards that you could be playing over this.
The problem is that with the EX burst is you're shrinking after you receive the damage. So they have 2 forwards. They attack with the first one. Now, okay, you took their 8,000 attacker. Now it's a 4,000. So sure, you kind of said, all right, you're not attacking me, or else my blocker's killing you. But it doesn't directly gain you advantage in the majority of situations. I like how it's a Final Fantasy IX card. You could, in Water Lightning, you could tutor it off Eco to... Is it Eco or Alco? I forget.
Ico.
Ico, yeah.
I believe. I don't know. Someone will correct us in the comments.
Oh, I'm sure. So Ico being able to search a lightning card if you needed that to fix your curve or to fix your play for the turn is cute, but as you said, pretty forgettable.
Black Mage, I won't say the same. I won't say much about this. As the same issue that Red Mage had, it's literally unplayable. Until we get some more Black Mage backups, the effect is just not worth it. If you have anything else to add, be my guest.
Nope, you're good.
Very quick. A certainly more playable, but I'm still not sold on a Black Mage, is the one that you have to pay 4 and break it to choose one active forward of cost 3 or less and break it. I think if you're trying to make the previous card that we just said was unplayable, playable, and then you're trying to play this, that helps you push in that direction. But simply put, it is too expensive for the effect, period.
The one dream I wish we could dream, but it's not a thing yet. There's that Earth summon, and I think it was in Opus 2 that changed the jobs of everyone you played, everything on the field.
Hashmal,
now, yeah. Now this specifically demands for card names, not just roles. Now, if this said any Black Mage name or Black Mage role, you could do something really cheeky with that. But if we get a similar card at some point that changes the name of everything you have on the field, maybe that'll be a thing. But that card will also probably break the game because of some stupid OTK loop, I would imagine.
Right.
I could see it. I don't know. So we have 2 Black Mages, though. This one being infinitely more playable than the last one. At 2 costs, it's a great enabler. I don't mind opening up with it. Paying 4 lightnings, or 4 CP, 2 of them lightning. Tap and discard Black Mage. You can pop something active turn 3 or less. You know, there was a time where the Opus 1 Black Mage, which was pop something that was damaged. And it's a little bit cheaper than this card, but it's more specific in that they have to already be damaged. So when I'm comparing that card to this card, I'm preferring the Opus 3 Black Mage. I think it is more interactive. I think it interrupts your opponent's plays more quickly. It's less situational. And I think that gives it the one-up. I'm probably not playing it right now unless I'm in a very specific situation where my deck needs 2 more lightning cards. They need to be a 2-drop. This is probably the most generic one other than the Opus 2 Black Mage. And those cards do pretty different things. How good do you think this card is?
I am just overall not sold on. I think it is certainly too expensive for the effect at the end of the day. The Black Mage is an interesting one because we could combo it with Ninja. Yes, it was expensive to do that. We could chump block with it. I think it comes down to how playable Minwu is going to be too. But for right now, I think I'm still playing the Opus 1 variant over this. But
I'm playing the Opus 2 one, to be honest. But
hey, I could be wrong. I am very open to admitting that I am wrong if that happens. So we will see.
Indeed.
You want to kick it off with Kelger?
Kelger. Sure. He's a Dawn Warrior, which is a archetype that's supported across what, 3 different colors, 4 different colors?
4.
Earth, water, and lightning.
Earth, lightning, ice, and is it double lightning? I forget the 4th one is. One of them might be a double then.
Yeah. So this guy comes in at haste. If you have another guy in your hand, you can play it to the field. Most of these are like 4, 5, 6 costs, so that's kind of cool. And then he can discard an extra copy to make himself 14,000, which is pretty unheard of. I think Opus 1 Prish is the only card to make himself that big with a special effect. That being said, again, this card isn't doing anything to immediately generate advantage. You're drawing a card. If you're discarding 2 or 3 cards to play this guy, and you somehow have a 5-drop to play afterwards, I guess that's cool. But it's not doing much for me.
I will say that I don't think that there's enough Dawn Warriors. I don't think the Dawn Warriors itself are good enough to really make this happen. I said in our Earth video that I really want, I believe Galuf is the name. I really want them to see play just because I think it's really cool, and Earth Lightning needed something besides Golbez. It's probably still going to be Golbez, unfortunately. And this does have haste, so it's hopefully getting in for a point of damage. But ultimately, I think we're going to need to see a few more Dawn Warriors before this really does see play or gets the most value out of it. But I think for right now, it's going to get a pass, but this is, again, one of those cards that I would keep an eye on in the future just to see, okay, we get more Dawn Warriors, makes this card more playable. Anytime you're bringing a friend to the field is great, so I'm very interested to keep an eye on this card and see what future sets might bring us.
Okay. So Scythe, we have a new 0 cadet, 2/5 when she attacks. Pick something and it loses 1,000 power for every job 0 cadet you have, forwards and backups. And then you can tap a lightning and discard another Scythe to choose a forward, and it loses 4,000 power. This card's okay. I think both effects in tandem could realistically kill something at 8,000. It's a little situational. More than likely, it's probably attacking and shrinking something by 2,000, 3,000. I'm theory crafting here on the cadet deck, which I haven't tested at all. If you could consistently have 3 0 cadets on the board, you're essentially swinging with a 5/8, or with a 2/8, because you're shrinking their 8,000 down to 5,000, and that's a trade worth having. Card's pretty cool. The other thing you could do is if you're running Golbez dies, you get 4 cadets, and then shrink by 4,000, shrink by another 4,000. It's alright.
Yeah, everyone is loving the Golbez Cadets deck. I'm really trying to avoid the hype on that one. I'll probably do a video on it just because, but so the other thing I will say about this, we did get a number of extra cadet characters for backups. Cater is one of them, which I know people are going to try Splash Fire. So this card does surprisingly work. It'll actually usually shrink for about 5,000 or 6,000 on attack. It is surprisingly good for a 2-drop. The only reason why I rated the other Queen as a common higher than this one is because it wasn't the starter deck, but at least Jamie will agree with it is one of the most important cadets in the deck just for helping your team swing out. So, and also the fact that you have to consider it's really a 2/7 when you play the Moogle and Maria that it's going to naturally have in the deck because you want your guys to be bigger. It's once you get your board set up, you are always winning in combat with cadets. So that is certainly the one thing that they have going for them.
Very cool. So Zangetsu, a ninja, archetype that's got some support. So 3/6. I feel like the game design is supposed to be 3/6 is on par, but all the playable 3 costs seem to be 3/7.
Yep.
So in relation, the 3/6 seems to be under expectations. If you have an edge on board, you can tap and you can deal 7,000 to something, or you can just swing, pay lightning, tap it, and deal 4,000 to it. Neither of those abilities are particularly amazing. Take that first ability and up it to 8,000, and we can start having a conversation. but that means at best you're trading up with another 3-drop, except for a few niche situations like Genesis. Card kind of gets a pass for me. The one cool thing it can do is it can chump block, and you can do 4,000 to something, and then block with the other 6,000, and trade up with whatever you're fighting with. So that's okay, but there's so many other 3-drops I'd rather play in Lightning, unless I'm in a hardcore dedicated ninja deck. I'm not giving this the time of day.
Exactly. I think this card's only going to be playable ever in the Ninja deck, which is cool because the Ninja deck wanted to be Lightning Wind anyways, and this is just helping push in that direction since Edge is a wind card. So, yay on those small victories, but I just don't think that there's enough cards there yet for a Wind Lightning Ninja deck. So, maybe Opus 4, maybe something to keep an eye on. Again, this is just one of those things where, like, as more sets come out, you just have to be like, okay, well, what did Ninja's the deck gain? What new effects? What new tools? And this certainly helps it, but I'm not convinced that it's enough to make it playable yet.
Agreed.
So after that, we have Jack, which is a bit silly. So it really, again, it's probably a 1-drop 9K in where you want it to be, because So I'm torn on this card if you run as a 2 or a 3 of, only because in my mind I want to save it for kind of just a late game value attacker, because it has to rest for an extra turn, and then Reflex obviously being just super good, so that'd be the one reason to run 3. But Jack is a very interesting card that I guarantee you will see play in the Cadets deck. I just don't know how many copies yet.
Fair enough. I'm trying to remember there's the win 3-cost cadet that untaps up to 3 cards when you play it.
Yep.
Try and look up the name now. I can't remember.
It's 8.
Yep. Is 6 afraid of 7?
Stop.
Is it 79? Yeah, there's nothing too else to comment on. It'll be really cool. Like, I could envision down the line, maybe Water getting some card that's like once per turn, point at a card, it loses its effect for the turn, and you could do that on either side of the board, and that can make Jack cute. If we get, I could picture it being where Jack's playable right now, given the cadets they have, but if the archetype gets more support moving forward, Jack is probably one of the first cards that get pushed to the side.
I can definitely see that. Do you want to kick it off with Exodus?
I sure do, because this is the lightning card that I think is shockingly good. This is probably lame to use the same pun twice in the same video, but we do it anyway. 4-cost summon. You select a number, your opponent selects a number, and then you break all 4s of cost equal to either number. So you look at this card and you're like, is this card better than 4-cost Opus 1 Odin, or is it worse? So when is it better? It's better when you don't have a board. It's better when your opponent has 2 or more guys of the same cost. And it's good when you want to get rid of the forge you have on the field. It is worse when you have guys on the field, or when you have, or specifically when you have multiple guys of the same cost. So basically, it's not helping you when you're winning, and it's a lot better than Odin when you're losing. That's kind of the generalization that I think you can make. So there's some cool cards like Geomancer and Renoa that you can pop your own guys and do cute stuff. Zach, Angel, we were talking about earlier. Popping your own stuff's fun on that front. It's a creative card. I like the potential of being able to kill 2 of their guys on 4. And for me, I think that's good enough that it's playable. Is it strictly better than Odin? Definitely not. But meta dependent, I can see where you don't play any Odin and you play all of this instead.
That's fair. I definitely automatically give this card as a 1 to 2 of. A lot of it being that we can select a card, and We can again kill our Renault if we really want to. There's a number of different things that we can set this card up in our favor. And just with how popular maybe 4 and 3 drops are, it's almost always going to kill 2 guys when you want it to of your opponents, because it's just you have to play those multiple 4 drops or 3 drops, what have you. And if I'm killing 2 things with this card, even if I'm losing maybe 1 card I don't care about as much, I'm probably just okay with that. So I guarantee that this deck is going to see play, or this card's going to see play in some deck. Mono Lightning obviously is a given, but outside of that, when summon choices kind of get more strict, I wonder where it's going to see play. But definitely keep your eye on this card and get your foils early if you want to.
The other really important thing about this card that I forgot mentioning before is it does not target characters.
Yep.
So when you're stressing out about not being able to kill their 2-cost
Zidane,
or their 5-cost Alita, you're afraid of it going in for direct damage for game. Exodus says, no, it doesn't work like that. That's pretty cool.
Beyond that, we have 9, which is just always a great card for attacking. Primal Roar isn't really all that relevant, but it still helps to have that option. Have talked about this card quite a bit already in our previous videos. Good card is good to combo with Ace. That's about sums it up. Got anything else to add?
I do not.
So I'm going to take a moment here on this next card, Freya, and
I know where this is going.
I want to just make everyone know that's watching this video that Matthew Okimoto is just the world's worst troll on this, and shame on all you SoCal guys for playing along with this. At no point did I or any of my teammates or Zap or anyone that is any way possibly affiliated with Six Ages Gaming or Mognet, what have you, has at any point tried to hype a Dragoon deck. Please stop sending us messages about it. I kid you not, we get several messages a week about asking us for a Dragoon list. That said, we'll probably put one together just because of how out of hand this has gotten. But damn it, Matthew, this is all your fault. So yeah, Freya sucks. I'm just going to get that out of the way now. Don't try to make this happen. I don't think that there's enough for Dragoons to be there. It is possibly a board wipe when you have all this stuff going for it. The number of Dragoons you currently have are really lacking in terms of ones that are playable. It's not a thing. It is really not.
I just decided that I want somebody to make a meme of Gretchen Wieners from Mean Girls holding a copy of Freya, saying, "Stop trying to make Freya happen."
We can make that happen. We can do that. We have the technology.
I think in Mono Lightning, if you have Lulu, 3/6 with haste and first strike isn't unplayable. But yeah, Dragoons aren't a thing. Stop trying to make it a thing. The end.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. Moving on. We have...
So Cannoneer is a card that I actually love. So it's one of the few cards in the game we have that allows you to break your own backups. So it's a lightning, one of anything, and you tap and discard Cannoneer, and you pop Cannoneer, one of your other backups, and you deal 7,000. Unfortunately, 7,000 isn't incredibly impressive. I like how you can play Lightning Fusoya, and then you can launch Cannoneer, doing 12,000 to a card, and then getting a card back from your discard pile. That's more cute than it is good, though. I think when we get more cards like Porum, and the Fire Summoner, let's say when you do damage, do additional damage. When we get more cards like that, I think this card will be really fun. It goes in the binder for now, but don't forget about it.
So I really like it with Earth Lightning, where you're playing all your Mustadios, all your Abans, all your Iridias. Earth has this issue where you're playing a lot of Enter the Battlefield backups that have these effects that when you're playing the game, you'll often have another one in your hand that's just stuck. So I like this card for the potential of being able to kill something and freeing up a backup slot to play like another Raban maybe in the same turn. But outside of that element combination, I just can't see this getting much love, at least for now. But I do think that if we ever see an Earth Lightning control deck finally happen, it can absolutely see play in that list. But we will see.
Agreed. So I heard you're really excited about this next one.
Yes, I love Mystic Knight, and I think Japan's kind of already caught on to it. When I read this card, it is just, I immediately think of Warrior Light, the 2 red drop. Now, it's not as good, obviously, because Warrior Light doubles and it gets around menu. Warrior Light is just a better card, period. But Mono Lightning really did want an extra 2 drop that can be aggressive. And again, realizing that this really does trade up into a 9K in Mono Lightning. So I am absolutely playing 3 of this card in every possible Mono Lightning deck going forward, unless Minwoo becomes just like absolutely meta breaking and, you know, everyone's playing Minwoo in every deck ever. Obviously then it becomes less good, but this is a house of a 2-drop common in Lightning. I think that this is just absurd for the Mono Lightning deck. So get your foils. Not that they're ever going to be that expensive, but I love this card, and I do hope it sees some play outside of Mono Lightning. I think being able to ping for 4,000 is going to be cute. Who knows where that's going to go yet, but I think it's at least worth giving this card some love. So Mystic Knight absolutely gets a play. Play this card. Just do it from me.
The one other cool thing you can do is, what's the Final Fantasy IX fire card that was in the starter deck?
Amaranth.
Amaran, yeah. So you could launch Mystic Knight with him to do 8,000 to something right away. Whee! That's a little cute.
Yep, that's perfectly fine too.
Yeah, I didn't think of the card like a Warrior of Light, but now that you frame it like that, the card's better than I gave it credit for. Definitely overlooked it on my first glance, but I will consider it more than I would have before.
Again, I think it's just because it's a 2-drop that can possibly trade it up into a 4 or 5, even some 6 drops is a huge power swing for it. And in the same way, Jamie kind of grilled me for it, and rightfully so, because after our video, and you guys will see this on our Thursday video because we recorded these out of order, Famed Mimic Go-Go is a lot better than I gave it credit for when I think about what it combos with and what else it can do. In the same way, I think Mystic Knight might get a pass from a lot of people initially, but when you think kind of the other synergies that it has, or some of the other things you can do with it, or what it trades up into, it immediately becomes more playable. So I think this is one of those cards that a lot of people might have missed off the bat, but once they play with it quite a bit, are going to get some more love from it. Actually, that reminds me, that might be a deck to put together. So the legendary Lena card already wants to get back. I can't think of the name of the card. At night, it becomes like a 2-drop 9K in mono water. But I wonder now if there's a water lightning deck based around Lena that you could do. So that might be something else that we look into, because there's a lot of very strong 1 and 2 drops in lightning and water now. So might have to revisit that.
That's a thought.
Any last thoughts for Mystic Knight?
Nope, you hit them all and then some.
All right. Then we have Simulacrum of a Hero. I don't have anything to say about this card. I really don't. The effects don't do enough damage. It's cute to block with, so you can trade up, and that's probably about all you're doing with it. Oh, and it's a mannequin, so I have to mention that it's a mannequin.
It is a mannequin. Can we just pretend its name is Gilgamesh so we can discard it for Strong Sword?
Yes, I wish.
The only 2 creative thoughts I had were Lightning Wind could go Barbarisia, and then this guy. You could also go Light Fusoya, and then this guy, and that would blow stuff up. But it's pretty forgettable. I do like it being 3/7, because that hits a really nice number with the Kefka mannequin backup. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, card's pretty bad.
And then we have Lightning EX, which this card this card created a lot of controversy. I will say that, at least on first read, I am not really in love with it. Yes, it's really cute that you can set up an Odin. You can set up a 7-cost Odin. You can be really cheeky with it. You know, your opponent's not going to want to attack then because something's going to die unless it's like for game. But I think that Lightning already has too many high-costed cards now that you just want to play instead. So we'll see if that holds up. And then you have the special, which, yes, it is very strong if you can get it to work. I won't argue that. But the fact that you have to discard a Lightning and discard an Odin and pay 2, it really does shove you into this mono Lightning play so you can hit 6 Odins and reliably get it off. So if you're making the effect happen, it's going to feel great. So that's certainly good. I'm not sold on this card seeing a lot of play outside of the mono Lightning decks, which I think that's already kind of combating for some pretty tight slots. And again, also then you want to run more Lightning, so you have to take that in consideration to get that special effect off. What do you think, Zap?
So I think you're not considering the synergy between the two effects. So you play Lightning, you put 7 Odin on the top, and you tell them, hey, if you attack me, I'm killing one of your guys for free. And if you don't attack me, well, then I'm discarding the Lightning in my hand, and the 2 cards that I draw, one of them being an Odin, and I'm killing 2 of your guys. So it tries to create this catch-22 situation where either you lose or you lose. That being said, 5/8 probably isn't enough. At 5/9, it'd be on my radar. But kind of as you said, I think Lightning has enough removal. A lot of what Gestalt Drive does, you can do with Exodus for a lot cheaper. The one thing that is unique about this card is this is actually the first card in the game that actually makes your deck bigger, that tries to save you time before decking out. And not that I think that makes the card good, but I thought that was a cute little side note.
Yeah, definitely. I will give you that one. And again, in Mono Lightning, you can make it a 5/9, so maybe that makes it a little bit better. So again, I'm strictly saying that in Mono Lightning, it's probably fine, but it's very hard to get this card to work outside of that. And maybe it makes a cut in Mono Lightning. Again, it's very difficult. Like so by comparison, I'd rather just play Ida. Like if I'm playing an EX Burst that's going to kill something, it's going to come down, it's going to kill something guaranteed as a 4-drop. Because obviously you're playing when you have 4 backups, not that it says 4 or less. And then on top of that, you can just discard and play death with ease. So it's not doing as much in terms of just killing 2 guys at once versus killing 1 on enter and then hopefully killing 1 down the road. But I think that's probably the closest comparison to it. And then, of course, kind of whatever value that you put on Odin. It's going to be interesting. I will say, if I'm wrong about a card in this review, it'll probably be this card. I'll leave it at that.
I agree.
Do you want to talk about Ramza?
I sure do. I think Ramza is really, really cool. I think everybody saw the card and they're like, whoa, these effects are insane. Oh, it's a knight. Damn, best card in the set. And then people were like, okay, let's find some Final Fantasy Tactics Fords to run beside Ramza. And they go through the pool and they find a whole bunch of standard units and like 4 other cards. And they're like, oh, I can't pump Ramza. This card's bad now. I don't think that's a big deal. Like, so you have this Water Lightning deck where you're running, what's the water? Ovelia?
Ovelia is a night pump, yeah.
Ovelia, yeah. Ovelia is putting you at 8. You're probably running 3 Lulu. I still think the 3 Lulu deck's better than the 5 Lulu deck. So that puts you at 9,000. But you don't even need to go to 9,000. If you're sitting at 8, you can use the effect to bring yourself up to 9,000 with First Strike. And that's an unconditional effect. You just need to have the 3 CP. So I think that's fantastic. I think that Zelbag is a playable knight that goes with it. I know Jamie thinks that you still run 5 Lightning, the Night Lightning in the deck. Oh, I guess that doesn't matter because it's not a Final Fantasy Tactics character. Trying to remember what other Final Fantasy Tactics you have. You have Delita.
Yep.
You have Zelbag. You have the Dragoon.
Is the other one.
I still think the 3,6,000 Dragoon with First Strike is okay. 7,000 with Lulu. But yeah, I think people are too worried about the 1,000 and not worried about enough with the fact that Ramza can trade with any card in the game, basically. I think the card's really good. I understand why it's an L. And I'm probably playing 3 of the 3 drops and 1 of the 4 drops in the Lightning deck. I've been waiting forever not have to play 3 of the 4 cost Ramza because you don't want to beat it until you have 4 or 5 backups.
Yep.
And by that time, because you have to charge it as soon as you draw it for the first third of the game. And I was never able to resolve Shout because you were always charging your copies as soon as you got them, always paying for them for other cards. So it's nice that if you get to the late game, you use 2 Ramzas, you play the 4-drop Ramza in the late game, and then you draw the 3-drop after that. That effect might mean something. So I like how the 3-drop buffs the 4-drop without making the 4-drop unplayable.
Yep, I think those are all fair points. It's going to be good in Mono Lightning. It's going to be really good in Knights, and I think that Water Lightning Knights will be a very real deck in this next set. So, yeah, you covered everything. I'm not going to really add more to this.
You agree that the fact that he's not going to get the pump as often as people are worried about, that's a big hindrance?
Yeah, no, that point is completely irrelevant. The fact that it's going to hit all the sweet spots across either Mono Lightning or the Knight stack that you can just pay 3 and have threaten a blowout every single time. That's more than enough for me.
Cool. So luckily you have another Dragoon for the tier 0 deck of the format. 2/5 non-unique. Pay 1 lightning. Dragoon gains haste until the end of the turn. No.
Yep, just no. We do not need to waste time on this. That's all I got.
I'm sure somebody's oogling over her outfit though. So.
All right,
we'll acknowledge that.
And with that, we're going to go into my picks. Again, these are kind of the more I hope see play. Legend, I can see go either way. I want to at least just make the note here that at the time of this recording, Xdeath has already won 2 or 3 events out of Japan. Ramza is nowhere to be seen. So that with that kind of, inclination, I have to give it to Xdeath just for the Legend spot. And then Exodus, I think we're going to all agree for Hero, because the Heroes are really underwhelming for Lightning this time around. They all kind of felt like, like they're okay. They're not bad by any means, but not a single Lightning card jumped out to me. What would you say for your Lightning or Hero cards, Zap?
I think Exodus is a really good card. I don't think it makes top 5 in the set. It probably makes top 10 in the set for me. I think Exodus is really good. Any card that's going to say, I'm going to help you seriously come back if you're losing by a lot, and Exodus being would just kill 2 4-drops for 4 and be able to beat hexproof things that can't be targeted. I think the ceiling for that card is extraordinarily high.
That's fair. And what would you pick for your Legend?
My Legend, I think that Ramza is much, much better than Xdeath. I think that Japan they're either terrified of Bart's, sick of Bart's taking all the jobs, or they're finding ways to add extra cards to their hand so they can pay for Grand Cross. It doesn't make sense to me that card is doing well, but it is, so...
Gotta take it for what it is. Fear the Void. And then for Rare, again, none of them jumped out at me, so I just picked one that I would hope sees play, because I think, again, it goes in the Wind Lightning deck, is Enuo, just to get that heroic Yuna effect in Lightning. And then for Common, this one is not debatable, period. Mystic Knight is the best common of Lightning. I will not debate that one or attempt to debate that one with anyone. Again, could be wrong, but damn does this card seem just absurdly strong compared to every other option. What do you have for Rare and Common, Zap?
Definitely Haste Dragoon for best common in the set. Second only to Freya, because as we know, the Dragoon deck is
You are the worst.
Untouchable. No, I'm not the worst. Matthew and SoCal are the worst, but
Thanks,
I'll take
SoCal.
No, I agree with what you said.
All right. Fair enough then. So this ran a little bit long. Zap, do you have any final thoughts on any of the Lightning cards that we had discussed today? Any kind of what you hope is really going to outshine maybe some of the other cards and gets to see play?
So if the Class 0 Cadet deck picks up, I think that will be where Lightning impacts the format. Other than that, you're really not seeing new decks that have Lightning in them. You're seeing old decks that got slight tune-ups because of Opus 3.
Yep, and I'm gonna agree with that. It's not,
and I'm fine with that because I was going to say that I'm fine with that because most people would argue that Opus 2 was the most supported color, and or in Opus 2, Lightning was the most supported. So for it to be the least supported in Opus 3, I don't think a lot of people are losing sleep over it.
No, I think everyone's going to be perfectly fine with it, and that's exactly what I was going to say. People will not be upset at all if Lightning takes a little bit of the back seat, at least just for a short while. So we will see what the meta brings. And with that, we are all set for this Lightning set review. So again, Zap, thank you so much for joining us for this video. Guys, if you like this video, make sure to drop us a like, comment down below what your favorite Lightning Opus 3 card is. It can be any of the rarities, maybe you list one for each one, that is perfectly fine as well. And of course, subscribe for future Final Fantasy trading card game content. So on behalf of Zap and myself and the rest of Six Sages Gaming, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next Six Sages Gaming video. Have a good one. This video made possible by the patron support of viewers such as yourself. Thank you to our honorary sages.